Greetings and welcome to what is finally a proper cold, frosty morning. We are down to -3 this morning. Got cold very early on as the sun went down, and yeah, this is the first proper frost of the year. I mean, had a few light ones, but no, this is like very, very noticeable. Everything is just covered in white, especially here on the flats. And yeah, we got down to zero a few times, 0, 1 degree, but yeah, really didn't get like the proper layer of frost. It just wasn't cold enough for long enough. And yeah, like I said in previous videos, we just haven't haven't had nearly as many frost as we usually would by this time of year. So yeah, it's nice to finally get that. Yeah, I wasn't sure if I wanted to even post yesterday's video, but yeah, just of course all the frustration with my current job. But like I said, like I'm very confident I'll get something better soon, be able to move onwards and upwards. And yeah, apart from that, like I'm just been having a bit of a think about my experience in different workplaces. Like it's quite interesting, even though I'm in a small country town. Like so many of my preconceived notions of how life would be out here have been shattered. Honestly, shattered. Like when I first moved here, like it's such a beautiful region. Like of course, beautiful nature, wide open spaces, very peaceful. So when I first came out here, I was like, anyone who's born out in a country town like this or any rural areas, like why do so many young people choose to move away or choose to move to the city? Of course, I know there's the social aspect and all that, wanting to go to uni and all that, and just more things to do. Of course, I understand that, but for myself personally, I never cared about too much about all that stuff. Like I'm pretty much content spending most of my time on my own. Gotten a lot better at socializing over the years, and I can go to social events and all that, no problem. But yeah, now it's at the point I totally get it. It's not really, it's mainly because of the lack of opportunities in a place like this. It's just like, I don't know, this is really more indicative of like just all the corporate bullshit that you got to deal with in different organizations, even organizations that aren't very large per se. Like I don't know, gets beyond a certain size, I think, like beyond the small family business size, it just, I don't know, there just tends to be more and more corporate BS coming up. Although with that said, like I used to work for Coles, one of Australia's 2 big supermarket corporations, and honestly I have to deal with way less corporate bullshit compared to now. It's quite interesting actually. Like so I wouldn't say I enjoyed the job as such. It was my first proper job outside of doing a paper run. My first ever job, I was just in a paper run, delivering pamphlets to people's mailboxes. I had that during high school. And then my first proper job after that, I worked at Coles for a year, mainly pushing trolleys or shopping carts for you Americans. So yeah, I was a trolley collector, and yeah, I cleaned a bit in the stores as well. So yeah, it was a good first job actually. Did I enjoy it? No, not really, but it was a good start. It was a decent start, especially when I started off uni. All that, it was good. It was good, and like I had clear duties. I had a clear role. I went through a few managers in that time. It seems to change a lot. They had their own management and structural issues at the store where I worked then. And there was one manager. Oh, she was a real. I'm not going to use. I won't use any rude words here, but you can imagine. She was a Karen. She was a Karen, right? One of the managers. She was a real Karen, and that was a pain to deal with. But yeah, the other managers were pretty chill. They were pretty chilled out actually, but yeah, for the most part, like there was clear communication of what the expectations were, what my role was. I knew exactly what I had to do. Like I was shown properly, I was trained properly, I was signed off, and there was clear communication, clear expectations on what needed to be done. As a result, I did really well at the job, and I got good feedback. Like everywhere I've worked, I've got good feedback that Johan's a hard worker, he's very reliable, he does the job well, so on and so forth, including where I'm at now. But I don't know, where I'm at now, there's some real corporate bullshit favoritism going on. It's very top heavy at the management level, and just a lot of BS going on with favoritism it's clear as day. It's clear as day. It's not just me saying it. So yeah, anyway, I'm at the point where it's like, yeah, the sooner I get out of this place, the better. The better. And it's a good thing I have options now. So yeah. Wow. Look at that frost. Love to see it. She loves it as well. The cold doesn't bother her at all. She's built for this. She's built for this. German Shepherd is built for this cold. Yeah. So anyway, I want to talk a little bit about tall poppy syndrome, which is a real problem here in Australia, and it exists in other places as well around the world, no doubt. I know I've heard New Zealand has also some tall poppy syndrome, but I think, yeah, the worst place I've experienced for tall poppy syndrome is definitely Australia. That's what I've heard. That tends to be where it's more synonymous with these days. And what do I mean by tall poppy syndrome? Basically, it's like you see a field of poppies, right? And then there's one poppy that sticks out that's a bit taller than the others. Basically, tall poppy syndrome is where you see that tall poppy, and instead of just, leaving it be and saying, oh, look, that poppy's doing well, it's growing. Let's just think of success in terms of, growth of poppies, right? You have a field of poppies, for the most part, there's an average poppy height, right? They tend to be around the same size. Some are smaller, some are larger. But the larger poppies that are doing really well, that are growing, tall poppy syndrome is where instead of letting that poppy flourish and grow, you cut the head off that poppy, basically. Like, cut it down to size. That's basically Australian culture, right? That is the biggest problem with Australian culture. You will hear that from many people. You'll hear that from Aussies that have been here many generations, born and raised. True blue Aussies. You'll hear them say that tall poppy syndrome is a problem. You hear that from people like myself, who come from a migrant background, the first generation of my family, born and raised here. You'll see that from new migrants who they might enter the workforce here, and then they'll quickly realize that something seems a bit amiss in certain things. And yeah, a large portion of it can be described by tall poppy syndrome. So basically, if you are someone who has high standards, who wants to do well, who really works hard and goes the extra mile, instead of being supported in that, instead of being encouraged, hey, you're doing well, you have some great talents, go make use of those talents. Essentially, people in charge will try to cut you down to size. And now I can clearly see, I think that's what's happening with me, honestly, because I do really well at my job. I've got some good feedback, and honestly, it's interesting. I've noticed a few times, whenever I get good feedback, some people in the managerial position, this is not just me, but some people in the managerial position will act a bit strangely. I'll never get directly complimented by, say, my boss or anything, and then, yeah, I don't know. That's a real case of tall poppy syndrome, I think, because essentially tall poppy syndrome, people who are in charge at that manager level, this is any corporation, I'm not naming anything specifically, anyone basically at that level will then, they will try to find a way to cut you down to size and bring you down. Now, my understanding, my impression is that this is very much the opposite of culture in, say, the US, America. Now, of course, tall poppy syndrome will exist in the US as well. Depends on the company, all that. But this is just my impression, right? I've never been to the States, so anyone watching this from the States, Mike V, feel free to correct me if I'm wrong on this. But my impression is that the US is a place that awards exceptionalism. You have the idea of American exceptionalism, the American dream that anyone can come to the US who can work hard and you can succeed. I don't know, there seems to be more flourishing of entrepreneurship, startups, more of a risk-taking culture where you can go there, take risks, be an entrepreneur, start your own business, and being exceptional in a place like the US is rewarded. That's my understanding of it. That's what I've heard. All right, I'm just going off what I've heard, and it makes sense. Then it makes sense. I'm not going into the whole situation with politics. Of course, I don't want to touch on US politics in this one, but you have that idea, American exceptionalism, and I would say that's probably one of the main reasons why the US became the world's most successful country. Whatever you think about US politics, right? I have my own thoughts on that. I'm not going to go into it in this video. US politics, current state of the US. Everyone has a thought on them. Everyone has a thought on the good old USA, of course. It's still the most powerful country in the world, and by many metrics, of course, the most successful country. So anyway, just a fact, just stating some facts there. I 100%, I easily recognize that. And if you ask why, I think probably that culture of risk taking, that culture of entrepreneurship, of anyone can achieve the American dream, anyone can make it. That I think is probably one of the most important aspects that has helped the US to succeed. And listening to how things used to be in Australia, Australia has had some significant differences in our history, which has led the culture to becoming quite different. Now, we had a lot of that, that pioneering spirit, that seeking entrepreneurship and all that. Like, we had a lot of that, of course, as well, because Australia, again, looking at the stats, Australia is one of the most successful countries in the world in terms of what we've achieved. Living standards, of course, we're not a big, powerful country like the US in terms of population and economy, but still on a per capita basis, we are very, very successful. And of course, we've had many things going for us as well. Like, on a per capita basis, there's almost no country that's wealthier than Australia on a per capita basis in terms of the resources we have and all that. And that's like, look, even though we've got some big problems, Australia is so blessed by wealth and resources that even with our current crop of politicians, even with our current political structure and all these problems that we have, even with all that, even with the ways that our wealth has been squandered, Australia is so blessed by resources that even with all the mismanagement, we are still pretty well off compared to many other places in the world. So, but I can't speak for the Australia of the past. I can only speak for the Australia that I was born and raised in. And this Australia is one where, unfortunately, tall poppy syndrome is rife. It's rife. And this is not specific to any workplace. Like, you see it come up in different forms. And this is the biggest problem with this country. Biggest problem, tall poppy syndrome. And again, you will find, let me just say, this is not just like, because some people will then say, oh, if you don't like it, then leave. I can already see comments from fellow Aussies. If you don't like it here, then leave. Go back to where you came from. Piss off, migrant. I'm just making stuff up. But like, I can sort of see, some people would think that way. Oh, if you don't like it here, go back where you came from. Blah, blah. This is my home. This is where I was born and raised. I come from a migrant background, yes, and I'm proud of my heritage. But I'm also incredibly thankful for the opportunities that this country has given me. And look, I'm 100% loyal to Australia above all else. So I'd gladly fight and die for this country. I still love this country, but this tall poppy syndrome, that's one aspect of the culture that I really don't like. And look, for anyone to be successful, whether it's a country, an organization, individual level, you have to be self-critical. You have to be willing to look at yourself, look at your organization, look at your country, and be willing to see how it's doing well and how it's not doing well. And the key to success is not just ignoring the ways. It's not just focusing on ways that you're doing so well and saying, oh, look at me, I'm so great. That doesn't really help. That doesn't even matter much at all. Like, success should speak for and of itself. The key to success is being able to look at the areas you're not doing so well and say, okay, we're failing in this metric, we're failing in this, we're not doing so well here. How can we fix that? But that's the problem. Too many people are still in denial. Government, organizations, on the individual level, this whole poppy syndrome comes up. And look, there's always been people throughout history that have been more entrepreneurial, risk taking. Like there's always been people who have sought to uphold the boundaries of society, where you just follow the path that is laid out by society and follow that average path, right? Someone's walking over there. Who is that? I wonder. Who is that, Laura? All right, let's go this way. So you've always had people who have sought to uphold the boundaries of society, and then you also have people who you have those few people who seek to expand the boundaries of society, to really test the limits and push the boundaries of society. And you've always, like, there's a few theories out there, right? How do societies change? How do societies grow and evolve? There's a few theories out there on, what actually changes history. And the one theory that I tend to believe in the most is that what determines history is great man theory. What's great man theory? Great man theory is basically that every so often you'll get, a certain type of person that comes along that has a vision, grand ideas, and they will basically be almost wholly responsible for the big changes made in history. Like, because there's this idea that, okay, it's just like, of course we all have a role to play, no doubt, like even in organizations, from the CEO down to the laborer, right? Like, everyone has a part to play, no doubt. We all have our role. But in terms of actually steering the winds of change in society, it's not the average person. It's just not. It's never been the average person. I think the average person just wants to, live their life, work, take care of their family, all that. That's it. Fair enough. But every so often you'll get people who have these grand ideas, visionaries, you could say. And the great man theory is that every so often, in a few only small part of each generation will basically come up with these ideas, and then they'll be responsible for the winds of change in society. It's not to say that they are, godlike or better than the rest. It's just how it is. And like, there's other theories, of course, as well, but I tend to believe that theory. I really do. And look, if you have someone who has a vision, who has great ideas, and who is clearly talented, clearly gifted, then why not support that person? Why not support that person to do the best that they can? Because that can be such a net positive for society long run. Like, a key problem I see in Australia, and this again is in other countries as well, the tall poppy syndrome, is punishing success. Punishing success. You see common left-wing talking points of, tax the rich, all these evil billionaires out there, all that. And look, there have been some wealthy people out there that have done bad things, and no doubt, and that have, acquired their wealth in not so nice ways. Of course, I'm not saying that's not a problem, but some big left-wing talking point, they automatically point a finger at the rich. Tax these evil rich people, all that, which they don't understand. When you say tax the rich, it pretty much means, tax all of us more, right? And anyway, people don't understand trickle down economics. If someone is doing really well, they might have a lot of wealth and all that, they might be running their own company and stuff. They don't understand that whole company could have a tremendous positive impact on the overall economy. We need people who are entrepreneurial, who start up their companies, who take those risks. And look, whether you like it or not, the world is not fair. This whole idea of achieving egalitarianism and that everyone has to be the same and all that, it's just a bullshit socialist communist talking point. That's not how humans are. That's not how we're meant to live. I'm not saying inequality is not an issue. I'm not saying that everything's all fair and it should just stay this way. There's definitely problems with the current system, but wealth inequality, all that. But this whole left-wing talking point of just tax the rich more and redistribute wealth, it's all a bullshit Marxist talking point. All that is all Marxist ideas, and it's all a bunch of propaganda. So anyway, you sort of see that like going into the culture as well, and that's unfortunately it's infested modern day Australia. It really has. Other places in the world as well. If you're from other places in the world, you can probably share some similar examples, but it's especially prevalent here. And anyway, I'm just sharing this now because I can sort of see it, where I'm currently working, without going into any specific examples. But it pisses me off. It really does. That's one part of Australian culture I really hate. And look, it's just total opposite. Like, this is what, if anything is holding Australia back from being the most successful, prosperous country in the world, it's tall poppy syndrome. So that's the biggest problem with Australia. yeah, that's all I wanted to say for this one. Tall poppy syndrome absolutely sucks. And like, there's some people that try to twist it into a positive thing, say, oh, look at Australia, see, we're so free, we're so equal, we're so egalitarian. It's not tall poppy syndrome. That's not what it is. It's you're punishing people who have these great ideas, who want to be successful. Like, look, some people will criticize me for saying this, but like, I don't want to be like the average person. I want to be successful. I want to be successful at what I do. I want to be exceptional. Sure. I don't think of myself that, oh, I'm so much better than the average person, but I just look at myself, what do I want out of life? Like, I don't want to be, I look at the average person, I don't want to be living just an average, ordinary life. Some people are perfectly fine with that, and that's fair enough, but I don't want to live the average life. I want to be successful. Sure, I want to make I want to make a decent living. I want to earn some good money. Of course, that's a part of it. So, yeah, why punish people who just want a better life for themselves? Because look, the most successful people who do well, who run their own business, that has trickle down effects, and that will help the overall state of the economy. People don't understand that it's all interconnected. They just sort of see successful people, they get jealous, they get envious, and then try to drag us down. It's just, and look, I'm by no means the most successful person. I know people my age that are doing much better than myself in terms of like where they're at, how much they're earning. And of course, it's not just about money. I totally get that. But yeah, look, I won't be lying if I said money wasn't an important part of it. So anyway, that's it. What's the time?